let you go. There's no way. I'm already so still burning. So hold to me close. Now, baby, I do what I'm told. Still learning.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 693 with our review of Red Rocket. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a streaming platform near you. This week, we are returning to talking about what is technically a new release, but also this is something that is still not quite available for everybody. This is Red Rocket, the latest film from Sean Baker. It played this last weekend on the A24 screening room, which allowed you to have a one-night-only digital screening of this film. So, of course, what we couldn't have known at the time of recording is that the following morning, Apple would release this film for purchase on the iTunes Store, and it will be available to rent on March 1st, so this film will be readily available to everybody very, very quickly. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it because we had the chance to see it, and we prioritized it because this is what we had access to this weekend. Steven, what do you think? Should we have a spoiler segment for this review towards the end?
I think we should.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Well, people just have to hold on to this episode long enough to be able to talk about it, because there's definitely some stuff that we're going to be able to talk about. Yeah. I will say this: I am even more sad now than I was last week because you did not see Palm Trees and Power Lines.
Oh yeah, I should have done my due diligence just so I could, because I knew there would be comparisons and things worth discussing here, but yeah, I didn't do it.
We did not know this was coming. I think it was literally we finished our recording and then we did reference it in the episode, so we did know. But but we recorded on Wednesday last week, and we only had the weekend to watch those films, so it wasn't exactly something that we could go back in time and change by the time we knew that we were going to have access to Red Rocket this weekend. But yeah, I think especially given my feelings on that film. When I was forced to talk alone about it, it was definitely interesting watching this, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But there's some interesting comparisons between the two of these.
I am intrigued. I'm curious what your take on this movie was after having seen a movie that I think is very, very heavy about a underage relationship. Seems wrong, like illegal. What is the very illegal way to describe it?
Statutory? Well, I guess technically in Texas.
A movie with an extremely illegal age gap between people. Or in the case of Red Rocket, locally not technically illegal, but in the eyes of God and fellow man certainly should be.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll get to that when it comes to it.
Yep.
Were you excited for this film? In general, Stephen?
I was, yeah. I had heard a bit about it, obviously, when it came out at Cannes. I loved Tangerine, and I also quite liked The Florida Project, so I feel like I was pretty primed to see anything Sean Baker was doing next. He seems like just kind of the poet of a group of people who would not normally be glamorized or given the empathetic treatment. That kind of seems like his bread and butter, like going into pockets of America and just kind of showcasing people as they are and not asking you to like or dislike them, but just asking you to see them. So I thought this subject matter seemed pretty great for that. At the same time, it wasn't one of those movies that I was wanting to race out to see either. Like, I had a chance to see this or Licorice Pizza, and I saw Licorice Pizza. Like this wasn't the movie that I thought I definitely had to get on my radar before end of the year. But I was excited whenever I would get a chance to catch up with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a huge fan of Sean Baker because I've only seen one of his films, but I absolutely love The Florida Project, and I'm always curious to see what he's going to turn out next. Red Rocket was a film that when trailers first appeared for it, I didn't watch them because I had no idea when I was ever going to see it. Usually I watch trailers for things that I'm excited to catch. And because given the state of the world, I had no idea when I would ever see that film. I kind of just ignored it. But when it popped up on A24 streaming room, I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's grab a ticket for this and let's do a review. And yeah, so I was excited to sit down and watch it, but I didn't really know what to expect because I wasn't really following this film or the chatter around it. But I was surprised to find out the closeness between when I watched this and when I watched Palm Trees and Power Lines.
So did you not know the fundamental age gap aspect of it going into this movie?
I did not know that. I hadn't really listened to much conversation around the film at all, and what I picked up from various podcasters offhandedly referencing things, I guess they didn't lean too heavily maybe on that part. I think they were very ambiguous about it because anybody who saw it was during an extremely limited run that wasn't even remotely close to when it was going to be for everybody else. So I feel like I didn't really see those comparisons outside of the joke you made at the end of the episode, I think. Or maybe it was off air last week. The joke was referencing that we're going to see something next week. Yeah. So, no.
No, I guess I said that.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you say, Stephen, we get into this review?
Let's do it.
All right. We're going to take a listen to the trailer for Red Rocket, and then we're going to come back and let you know our thoughts.
You said you're never going to step a foot in Texas again.
I know, this is unexpected.
Oh, nothing with you is unexpected.
Your last job is over 17 years ago. That's quite a gap.
Well, I've worked almost every day for the last 17 years. I moved back in with my wife last week.
No, call the cops. 10, 9,
Really?
8.
We decided to make a run of it.
I just need a place to crash for a couple of days. What's the big deal?
Mikey, go fuck yourself.
All right, look, I'm going to be straight with you. I'm an adult film actor.
Excuse me? So why are you back, Mr. Hollywood?
Mikey, welcome back, dude.
I'm on top of my game right now on like every single possible level. Physical stamina, my mind is sharp. I'm taking 5-HTP for serotonin in my brain.
Yeah?
Dude, with my skill and ability, there's no denying what I can do. The universe is on my side, bro.
Before long, it'll be like we're still married.
We are still married.
I'm doing this tonight. You're probably gonna start a fire.
What's your name?
Everybody calls me Strawberry.
You're like an extraterrestrial around here.
Don't fuck with me.
Not.
I loved you when
Where were you?
This cute little town called None of Your Fucking Business, Texas.
Hope you had a good fucking time.
now it's time to leave.
I think it's cool. You just said, fuck it. I'm gonna get paid for doing the thing I love most. And as long as you're not hurting anybody, you do you, man.
I'm not afraid to fight you. I don't give a... What the fuck? He sucker punched me. I would 100% out-cardio that guy. Fuck. Sorry for swearing.
The shit got out of control. I came this fucking close to getting shot.
This fucking close. The dog's like, oh, he's a good man. I can tell by his nice energy. Your persona non grata.
Life's sweet, Sophie. Life is sweet.
All right, so that was the trailer for Red Rocket. It is the story of a adult film actor named Mikey Saber who comes back to his, I guess his hometown in Texas, and doesn't have anything with him and just needs to crash on his. I'm gonna refer to him as or her as ex-wife, even though even in the trailer it references that they're still married. His estranged wife on her couch as he tries to figure out what he's gonna do to try to get back to the life that he once had. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Red Rocket?
I thought Red Rocket was a pretty amazing movie, actually. I was pretty blown away. And it is, I'm not going to say almost entirely, but very much due to Simon Rex's performance as the lead of Mikey. This movie, I know we will not spoil things, and I think we'll have to agree what constitutes a spoiler and what doesn't. Like, what are we saving for the spoil section? In my mind, anything about the setup or premise of this movie, anything that happens in the first 45 minutes roughly is okay, and then the twists and turns where it goes from there maybe would be spoilers, but I'm open to any rules that you suggest.
I mean, I think we can establish he is an adult film actor.
Yep.
And he begins to pursue a 17-year-old girl. I think that's safe territory.
Okay. So Mikey and Strawberry are safe to talk about.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, what is so uncanny about this movie, and it's kind of similar to Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems, is Mikey is absolutely a piece of shit. Like, he sucks. You can tell immediately that he is the kind of guy who just brings people down. He pulls them into his orbit and uses them for his own ends. You can tell that from like the opening scene, like just the way he talks, even in the trailer, you know, he's talking about the universe is on my side, bro. There's going to be big things coming. And that kind of mentality paired with being undeniably charismatic and charming and able to actually woo people over very quickly. I thought the performance was just unbelievably good. Like, I hated Mikey on an objective level, and I loved watching him. And the conflict between those two things is such an interesting feeling. It makes the movie is like kind of horrifying, but it isn't abrasive in a way that makes you like want to look away. It's just this really, really neat magic trick that is just a really in-depth look at a total piece of shit and understanding how he is the way he is and what he does to other people.
Yeah.
I truly like Nick Cage and Joaquin Phoenix both are very high on my list right now, but I feel like Simon Rex, I don't know if anyone else gave a performance that so immediately anchored a movie the way that he does here. So there's that. I feel like the story is just very deftly told. I think Sean Baker doesn't look away from extreme ugliness. Mikey is pursuing Strawberry, who is 17 in the movie. I will alleviate any concerns. The actress, Suzanna Son, is 26, so she was cast to look younger than she really is, just in case there's any ethical questions about the movie, how it was made, and stuff like that. But this movie, it does not shy away from their, quote, relationship. Like, it's a predatory thing. He clearly has found his mark. But it then plays off showing us him flirting with her, him talking her up, her flirting back, them developing a rapport. And the way it indicts him, it makes him a terrifying person, and then shows you how easily he could be beloved and charming, and how easily other people might just fold to his will or not see it as horrifying as it is. I think an incredible magic trick that Sean Baker creates. And I feel like the whole movie, really, there are other characters that play a big role, but I think it would be too spoilery to really dig into. But pretty much every single person in this movie that he befriends, he uses for a certain end. He has a level of intimacy with them. And then the moment it gets in the way of his enormous ego and his idea of what his future should be, he makes them worse and discards them. And that behavior is just very, very, very interesting to me. And there are filmmakers like Alex Ross Perry or Noah Baumbach or something who could make a movie about a guy like this, and I would find it uncomfortable and abrasive, and my brain would like it, but my heart would be like, yeah, not for me. You know, I get it, but no. I'm just blown away that Sean Baker made a movie that is this unlikable and this lovable at the same time. And I still can't really understand why it works so well. So what did you think?
I mean, I think I would be lying if Simon Rex didn't like 100% win me over with his performance. I mean, you talked about like great performers, like Nick Cage and Joaquin Phoenix, but like, to my mind, like the best comparison I can think of is Jim Cummings. Like, he has that fast paced, throw everything at you, talk real fast, but be incredibly charming. He has that down to a T. And like, I'm trying to think if like they could exist in a movie together, if it would just be too much, or if it would be the perfect combination of two different things. But yeah, I was watching this, and I think if I could watch this film in a vacuum, I would just 100% love it. part of the back of my mind is like, dude, you just talked about how weird and uncomfortable Palm Trees and Power Lines was last week. How can you like this film? And I think I spent a lot of this film trying to have that conversation with myself in my head. Why does this film not make me so uncomfortable? And part of it is just the tone of this film is so in this, like, Simon Rex's character is a piece of shit, and he's not just a piece of shit, he is an asshole who is an asshole on purpose. Like, he is somebody who says the thing he doesn't have to because he wants to burn that bridge, or he wants somebody to know that he got one over on them, but yeah, sometimes got one over. Like, what I laughed out loud. There's a scene, I'll say it completely out of context, where he just says, "Thanks for all the free donuts, Miss Fan," and I laughed so hard because like that. He didn't have to say that, right? He just wanted to be a dick and like let her know that he's had free donuts. He probably wasn't even eating free donuts. He just wants her to think that he was because he wasn't supposed to. And it's like things like that. And that's like the mild version of it, right? There's plenty of moments in this film where he could just do whatever he wants, but instead he wants somebody to know that he is a piece of shit and that he's going to be an asshole to them. And that's sort of like unredeemable. But at the same time, you just can't not watch this guy. And the worse he gets, somehow the more likable he becomes. Like it's and it's not celebrating who he is or what he's doing to the people around him. It's just entertaining and to watch him do that. And it's like I just kept watching this film going like, man, why do I like this so much? Why is it so funny? And this film quite literally takes some huge swerves.
Yeah.
that like just like I literally was like, what am I watching? And it's just amazing the ebbs and flows this film goes through. And, like this, it's almost like this, the strawberry character is something that he is inhabiting, but there's so much this film that is not that, even though the film becomes more and more about that as it goes on. It's also more than that. It's so I think when I compare it to Palm Trees and Power Lines, it is not just this predatory relationship, which is the only thing you are watching. You are also watching all this other stuff, which is shining a light on what's bad about it or what is sloppy about it or what is whatever about it, as opposed to the other film where it's like just these creepy, and also these sex scenes in this film are often shot comedically. Like with like the Zoom like stuff going on, like they're shot like a episode of The Office, right?
Yeah.
And there are things this film's doing where it's trying to lighten the reality of what's going on to play in this space, as opposed to being this very, very somber, look at this like weird lingering shot of this underage girl's body as this man looks at her. Like, that isn't in this film. It is not looking at it. This is a story that is about the guy and about everything else he's going on and how he uses the people around him. And I'm never rooting for him. There's one time where I'm like, why didn't you just not do this scene? Not about the film, but about the character. Like, why did you just open your stupid mouth? Like there's moments like that, but I'm never really rooting for him for it all to work out for him. I'm just entertained as I watch him go through his beat to beat moments.
Yeah. I think Jim Cummings is a really, really great comparison point, especially for a movie that neither of us liked that much, The Beta Test. Yeah. That was kind of him turning his charisma and turning that dial into the kind of the fakeness of a Hollywood agent and kind of double talk and how you kind of filibuster your way through another person's will. And I feel like that is very much what the quote Hollywood persona that Simon Rex is playing here is doing too. Like you take his interactions with Strawberry, he's made his mark. He knows, I am attracted to the girl at the donut shop. I'm going to win her over. And it is pretty much incessant, like he chips away. And then the moment he gets an in, it has to be what about your boyfriend? Hey, we talked about this already. We talked about this. This is how it has to be. Like this like overpowering, like, no, this was your idea. You did this already. I am just being an instrument for you to achieve your best self. And that kind of the delusion of grandeur, like whether or not he believes it, he manifests as if he believed it. It's like he's being an asshole, but he also thinks he is God. Like that is kind of the delusion of this character.
But it's like, even if that exact same scene would have happened in The Worst Person in the World, it would have made me so mad, right? But in this, for some reason, I'm just laughing. Like there's a line where he's telling somebody to Google him.
So good. God. Yeah, we're going to have to go into spoilers for some of this stuff. Yeah. We'll talk all about that stuff because I think all of that is just brilliantly done. And again, disturbing. That's the thing. This movie, I think when this movie first hit the festival scene and people were talking about it, so there was discourse around Licorice Pizza about an age gap in it because it's about a 20-something-year-old woman who is flirtatiously hanging out with a 15-year-old. And like it is very chaste. It's like a very tame movie, but there was some discourse around like, ooh, why are people are being creepy? Like, why are they not acknowledging that this is wrong? Yeah. And then there was kind of a secondary discourse that was like, how are any of you saying this when Red Rocket is a movie that exists? Yeah. And people were describing it as if Red Rocket were like charming and heartfelt and that was incongruous because it's so disgusting. And I feel like Red Rocket is like, no one can watch it and not feel disgusted and also engrossed in the charisma of it. And I think it's the combination that you can't separate. Yeah. And that is what makes this such an interesting like film, because it manages to do both in a way that is not, it isn't one of those things where your brain says this is gross and your heart is just in love with it. It wraps it all together. And I find it I just think it's very impressive and different from the other Sean Baker movies. It's like I don't think we can talk surface level similarities. And obviously as a director, there are things he does multiple times and we can get into that in spoilers. But I think in terms of what this movie is setting out to do, it is so different from the kind of humanist portrait that like Florida Project was doing. Yeah. And I just find I eat it up. I don't know if you heard much about Simon Rex's, how he got involved in this movie and what his history was before it.
I mean, just a little, if you watch the after part of the 24 screening room thing about his MTV VJ days.
Okay, yeah, I didn't watch that. So I don't know if he tells this anecdote or not. But in a Variety piece that I saw like a few weeks ago, he was doing a roundtable with other actors. It was Andrew Garfield, Nick Cage, Jonathan Majors. So it was like a bunch of people who had done big performances last year. Yeah. And they were asking how he got the job. And he basically describes, so he hadn't really been working in the film industry for a long time, probably 10 years, maybe a couple bit parts here and there. But he had his heyday back in like Scary Movie or whatever. And then he was Dirt Nasty rapping with Andy Milonakis for a while. And then he kind of just disappeared. Yeah. And then he describes that in July of 2020, he got a call out of the blue from a mutual friend with Sean Baker, who said, like, hey, can I give Sean Baker your phone number? He wants to talk to you about something. And Sean Baker basically called him and said, like, I need you to cold read a monologue. Send me a video. And he, like, read a monologue and sent it 5 minutes later. And then in 3 days, he was shooting this movie. Like, he just flew out and became this character with no prep, like, no anything. And I just find that so amazing. Like, this was just in his heart somewhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is pretty incredible to, like, just pull this out that quickly. Like, and also, I think that's actually one thing he said in the video is he couldn't even fly out because then he'd have to quarantine. So he drove to Texas to shoot this in 3 days.
Right. Yeah, and another thing that I don't know if he said it already in the after video, but before his fame, being in Scary Movie and that Amanda Bynes movie and a couple other things, he did do a few solo masturbation videos to make money when he was like in his early 20s.
He did so not I do say think that.
Yeah, he did. So this is another one of those cases where I think Sean Baker is like trying to pull something real from a person's life to tap into a character.
Yeah, well, if he's going to pull something real, Sean Baker can too.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me think he was pulling something real now that I think about it.
All right. Well, on that note, are there any more things that we can talk about in the non-spoiler section that we can hit before we do this transition?
I can't explain it in the non-spoiler section, but the only dock against this movie for me, the only dock is I think there is the last like 15 minutes of the movie, it takes another kind of swerve. And I don't know if that swerve works for me, or at least I don't think it had to be there for the movie to get its point across. Love the closing minute or two, but just the broader arc that it takes. But we'll talk about that. I can't give only unreserved praise. I do think it, the script toward the end does some things that it doesn't really have to do.
Yeah, I think that gets to my comment I made earlier about like, dude, just don't open your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, well, we're going to have a nice little spoiler section in a little bit, but for now, Stephen, let's get to our recommendations for this film. If you're going to give us a must-see, recommend with the caveat, wait for it until past the caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
Easy must-see. I thought this movie was incredible. If I had caught it a few weeks ago, it not only would have made my top 10, I'm pretty certain it would have made my top like 5 at least. I just thought this was an incredibly well-made movie, and the performance at the center is just so outrageously good. So yeah, the highest praise. I think this movie is great.
Yeah, I'll give it a must-see as well. I think my feelings are a little bit more complicated on the film, but not because of this film, but because it's pairing with other films. So if this and Palm Trees and Power Lines had come out back then, given the way I set up my list, maybe it could have got there. But in general, I probably wouldn't have put it up there on my list. But enjoyed it immensely, laughed out loud to myself a lot, and yeah, had way more fun of a time than in some ways, I think I should have. But I mean, it's designed exactly for you to have this much fun, and maybe that's the whole point. But yeah, that's going to do it for the non-spoiler part of this review. Stephen, if people aren't going to stick for spoilers, where can they find you throughout the week?
People can go to twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com, or this house that I bought for my mom.
People can find me at ChristopherRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artist.io. I don't know what that track is yet. We're not listening to it, but you are listening to it. So check the show notes if you want to know what the track is. And yeah, that music right now is going to fade up. And when that music fades out, we're going to be in full-blown spoilers. So here we go. We'll see you in a sec.
You're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride. Look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, yeah. We could roll the dice. Yeah. Act like you surprised, but you already know. You're my lucky strike, and I got to tell you, if you didn't know.
All right, we are back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after part of a review of Red Rocket. We are talking full-blown spoilers. But before we get started, there is one question I do want to ask you, Stephen, based on stuff we were hinting around earlier on. And here's this. This is the question for you. Do you think he is genuinely attracted to her for his sake, interpersonally, or purely as his waypoint back into the porn industry? Like, if he isn't coming up with this plan to relaunch his career with her as his main gal in the program, if like he was swore off porn forever, do you think he would still have chosen her and still like pursued her and still tried to? And this is not about justifying the actions at all. I want to. Do you think he genuinely was interested in her, or just saw her as a mark to help relaunch his career?
I think it is a big question, and it's one I think the movie is ambiguous about. My answer would be Mikey has blurred to the point where everything about his personal desires is a grand scheme of how he can get ahead. Like, he believes that is just his whole life. You know, he's gonna hit the jackpot, right? So I think from the moment he sees her, this whole plan unfolds of how he is going to get her to come to Hollywood with him, and everything beyond that is him motivated reasoning plus persuading her to, quote, want to do the thing he already decided she'll want to do. Yeah. Now, at the root of that, like, what is the thing that convinced him that she would fall for it? It could just be basic lust, right? Like, it might be that he still is just as obvious and selfish as you would think. But I do think he's just so... His delusions of grandeur are big enough that he can't just want something. Him wanting it has to be, like, a sign from the universe. So I feel like it's all of it at the same time. Yeah.
It's just something I think about when I think about, like, does he feel like he's getting away with... Like, the way he approaches her the first time he sees her in the bar is it's like, I don't even buy that as actual hit. Like, it's so performative and so it's charming for the watcher. She plays into it as though it's charming for her, but it feels so false that there's just a way where it's like, I feel like the way he's not, like, when he's at the table with his wife and his wife's mom eating donuts and he's looking over at her, it doesn't feel lusty. It feels like gears are turning in his head. Yeah. And he's like,
It definitely isn't. I mean, not that I think Sean Baker would want it to be a, quote, love at first sight, but I don't think this is even, you're right. I don't think it's trying to present an attraction at first sight. Like, he is immediately scheming, right? Yeah. Now, what that means, like, does he see people as raw materials and then he'll figure out later what he does with them? I'm not sure. Like, his friend, Lonnie, is that the character's name?
That's definitely someone's name.
Yeah, I think Lonnie is the neighbor that he has driving around. Like, I don't know the moment he sees Lonnie if he knows that this is going to be the guy who he will use to get free rides all over town or what, but he definitely knows me being nice to this guy for a second is going to pay dividends later.
But he does, though, right? Because the car drives by and he goes, that's a cool ride. And he just immediately changes direction on the street and walks over to him and he's like, that's a nice car. Hey, do I know you? And it's just like, it's so interesting the way, like, every transaction, no matter what he's doing, is a transaction of how can it benefit him? What can he do with it? How can he manipulate these people to do what he needs? And it's weird too, because I think that's one of the things too that separates this from something like Palm Trees and Power Lines is that in that film, the grossness and creepiness of this guy is all subtext for every interaction they have, right? In this film, every time he does something skeevy, it cuts to him in the car with Lonnie just talking about his plans to be skeevy.
Right, exactly. That is another a thing that is so interesting to me. Like, you would think in a movie, and again, in this world, I guess in the real world, 17 is legal in Texas. But you would think a guy who... Simon Rex is 47. I don't know how old the character Mikey is supposed to be, but I assume around there. Yeah. Him trying to hook up with a 17-year-old cashier at a donut shop would be a thing to keep secret, right? It would be like a dirty, horrifying thing that if anyone found out, they would view you as a monster. But like you said, he is excited, enthusiastic to tell this kid about it and present it in a way that will make it sound cool. Like, and then he's going to get that reinforcement from Lonnie, because Lonnie's going to be like, oh, fuck yeah, man. Wow. Fuck yeah. Yeah, that's amazing, dude.
Freaking Lonnie. It's all
that's the thing. What really gets me about the character of Mikey is he's the classic, like, medium talent. Like, he was a big fish in this tiny pond, right? where him and Lexi were the hot shit, and he sprinkles in his story to Lonnie. I'm pretty sure he convinced Lexi to become a porn star the same way he's trying to do with Strawberry too. Like, he basically ruined her life.
Well, I first of all, I don't know if I can ever believe anything that he says, right? Like, I never know whether what he's telling is what he is saying to people is a true story or just him, like, spitballing. But I feel like he also talks so fast that it's hard to always follow his random, like, spur top of his head try to thing. Yeah. But I thought, I didn't know that he got her into it. I thought he met her doing it and then they got married, but then she, like, leaves him for another guy in the biz. Like, it would make sense that he, found her, recruited her, but...
Well, yeah, I think they were high schoolers together, and they were dating in high school, and because she was, like... Because he was saying she, like, sucked his toes, or she did something that... just like Strawberry made him immediately just know that she would want to do a three-way and that she would want to do scenes and stuff like that. Like,
gotcha.
He goes on this spiel that in hindsight, I feel like this like black hole of icky charisma that he had, just like in that kind of tiny pond where nothing ever happens, where like Lonnie can look up to you because you were so cool, because you were like, whatever, you hooked up with a girl at a party.
Yeah.
He takes all that and manipulates people. And then in the real world of Hollywood, he was, medium fish. Like, he got some awards, but as everyone points out, he's like the recipient of a blowjob. It's hard to really say that he was like amazingly talented in that.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it seems like his whole lifestyle is he needs to make the pond small enough for him to be cool again. So, like, how do you shrink the pond? You shrink the pond by the younger neighbor kid. You tell him all about your salacious things, and then he has to just be into it. Or you hit on a 17-year-old at a donut shop, right, and impress her. And the reason I'm going on this tangent is the scene where he talks to Strawberry's former boyfriend and tells her, like, Google my name right now. You don't have a chance with her. Look at what I've done. Like, the patheticness of that, and how much he thinks he's cool, and how much the kid probably also is, like, pulled into the gravity of this, like, medium fish in a tiny pond. It's just, it's all just so horribly cringy.
And then he just goes and posts all the videos on her Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is super interesting. One thing that kind of surprised me is the fact that Strawberry finds out basically what his job is, and is not deterred at all. And the film is trying to make sure that she is 100% being manipulated. And we were listening to Simon Rex talk about his scheme and how it's going to work and like the steps that he is deploying. But she also is given more agency than just being somebody who is being 100% taken advantage of. It's like that sort of surprised me when that moment of the reveal is not played as a moment of tension. It's just like, oh yeah, I think it's cool, or whatever her response is to it. So that was an interesting, like, that's like it was almost the biggest twist in that it was the least twisty twist. But I also love that is delivered on the drop of a roller coaster. Yeah. Like she suddenly says that she knows, and he's like, wait, what do you mean? And then it's just, and you get to see his face emotionally ride that roller coaster as he physically rides the roller coaster. It was good.
Yeah. What's so interesting in that moment though, and I agree with you, like she's given more, I'll say like agency-ish, right? Like she's given more of it, but then we know that this aura, like the casting couch effect or whatever, is like so strong with him in that moment, especially to like a person in Podunk, Texas, who sees this Hollywood big shot. But that roller coaster scene too, there's this dynamic he has built, and we see it with the way he deals with his ex-wife and her mother, and like anyone else, the way he deals with Lonnie when Lonnie's stolen valor thing happens, where he can turn on a dime, right? Yeah. And make the person feel so small. And you could see in that moment on the roller coaster how there's a version of this where he could start berating her about, like, how could you hold this from me? A relationship is all about honesty. How long were you going to wait before you tell me that? Like, I could just feel the shitty boyfriend inside of him, how easily he could play someone like that.
Like, if she took it negatively, he could just rip into her and make it be like about her in some way.
Yeah, like, I felt like he had that totally ready to go. Like, if she had any negativity at all, he would find a way to make it be like she violated his privacy. How could she hide this kind of thing from him? He thought that, I don't know, maybe like he just like, there was so much of him, I was just like drawing conclusions that weren't there, but I just felt all of that in the roller coaster of like how easily he could turn it around on her.
Yeah. So one question I have for you, like related to the lack of fallout from the roller coaster, is why do you think he kept up the illusion of not wanting to go back to his like fancy house once she knew? I mean, I guess he was still trying to play the Mr. Hollywood role, even though she now knows that it's not Hollywood movies. It's also, she could have just like what girl doesn't Google the guy that she's starting to see?
Yep.
Like, I feel like at some way or another she definitely I mean, sure, maybe maybe she's not adding keywords that are like synonyms for penis to his search, but
I think in this world, you know, because he uses a fake name, Mikey Saber, and I forget what his real last name is. I don't know in this world if his real last name is not linked to his stage name.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible that was how he was hiding it. But he gets in his own way so easily because he like brags to her now ex-boyfriend about who he is and here's how you can Google me, right?
Yeah.
So he's like not doing a very good job of hiding his intentions. In terms of the house thing, I do think it is he needs to paint a picture for her. The thing that makes her overlook all of his flaws, the fact that he's a fucking 40-something-year-old dude who's hitting on her, all of that goes away or gets hidden by the promise of like big shot Hollywood, take you out of this town, just think about what your life could be. And I think like if he can't spin his life circumstance in a way that still looks glamorous, then he's afraid that she won't fall for him anymore. And so I think like staying at my ex-wife's house, staying in this like terrible place just wouldn't. I guarantee you if she caught him in the lie, he would find a way out of it and be like, I didn't tell you because I knew you were going to behave this way, blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't want to have to do that, I think.
Yeah. But I also feel that like, not to bring like real life relationship dynamics into the story that's very heightened and not super necessarily realistic, is that like if he wasn't a porn star, right, then I could see the like, oh, why are you staying at your ex-wife's place? Like, what's going to happen there, right? Like he is in the story fucking his ex-wife as well, but his job is to have sex with people. So like, if you're fine with that being his job, then why would you care if he's like, it feels like that sleeping on her couch is less, it's a different kind of transactional. It's like, obviously I'm staying there because I need to, not because I'm trying to hook up with my ex-wife, because if I had another place to go, I would just go. Like, if he could stay at Strawberry's house, he would 100% do that. It's not like he is trying to stay at the other place. So it feels like a weird, I don't know. I just don't understand the game he's trying to play when he's like woven so many other weird spider webs that he can just rest on.
Yeah, I really think it's the wealth aspect.
Yeah.
That like he needs to be the kind of guy who doesn't have to crash on his ex-wife's couch. And if he were crashing on it, it would be the mansion that he bought for her, not this prefab home or whatever it's supposed to be.
And it does make sense, because if he is trying to convince her to come to California because he can offer her something she can't have here, then like, if he can't offer her a place to stay here, then why can't? But also his whole story
she has
is
to know that he has the goods, like that he has connections and all that.
Yeah, but his story is also I'm coming here to take care of my mom who has the house. Like, so if he, like, here's the thing though, he also had like thousands of dollars in cash. He could have gone and got a hotel room for them to stay in, and like the story still works. I can't sleep at my mom's place because of she's sick and blah 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 blah, so I'm staying at this hotel, which he could literally, because he has no gear or anything with him, he could just be getting the hotel room only for the nights that he's hanging out with her, right? Like, he doesn't need to maintain a residence there. So it's I don't know, it just seems like he's going through a lot of extra trouble to try and portray something that is easily avoidable, but I guess it's not the image that he's trying to portray.
Yeah, and it's an early lie, so he sticks with it. I guess like getting out of the lie just wouldn't be worth it for him.
Yeah.
Like, because in the beginning, they haven't, nothing has happened between them yet the first time she's giving him a ride home.
Yeah.
So he's still trying to make an impression of like, look how fancy I am, and I like don't even realize it. This is just the home that I bought her. Oh, is it a nice neighborhood? Oh, yeah, nice. You mentioned staying at her place. Can we talk about how like viscerally uncomfortable it is when he's in the house and she opens the bedroom door and it's like pink, fluffy, it's like clearly a teenage girl's. Yeah. Little. Ugh.
But even that, like, to me, it was more funny than it was creepy, because it's like it felt the film is just so weird tonally that it's like, of course she's like a little princess that has like this little, like, I'm surprised her bed wasn't like 6 feet like off the ground, that she has to like hop on top it like you know what I mean? Yeah. It just felt so fucking weird.
And then even the piano when she's playing for him later and she's doing a cover of Bye Bye Bye, and she's singing in this kind of like Billie Eilish-y, like, I'm making this a really powerful, meaningful song. Like, there's just something so teenage girl about her in that moment, even though it is like a post-coital scene with a 47-year-old man. I understand what you're saying. It's like, it's disturbing and it's also funny. It's such a tonally confusing situation.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's very damning, I think. Like, whether you're like laughing at how horrible it is or you're like cringing, it's just like, ugh, this guy, like the shit that he's pulling. I don't know. I just thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah. So you talked about the last 15 minutes before we jumped into spoilers. Can you go into a little bit more detail about what bothered you there specifically?
Sure. Well, so we can talk about the two big plot twists. So a little bit earlier in the movie is the actual swerve where Lonnie is driving. They're in like a heated conversation about, how he's gonna get Strawberry to come to LA, and hey, who knows, maybe Lonnie can get a connection too. And then he tells him to make a turn, and he swerves, causes a pile up. Many people are injured, and he convinces Lonnie to take the blame for it, and not convinces him to take a blame for it in the way of like, come on, do me a solid, but in the like, no, I mean, you are the only one to blame. What are you talking about? Of course you have to take the blame for it. That all heightened the stakes a lot, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. I thought it fit totally with the character. Zero complaint about that whole arc. Toward the very end...
there's real fast. There is... One of my favorite scenes is when... So he's already yelled at Lonnie. He's like, you don't know me. We've never met. We've never hung out. You did this. You're a fuck up. Blah, 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 blah. And then he's stressing out for like about 24 hours until like Lonnie gets arrested. Lonnie's lawyer releases a statement that's like, I have made bad choices in my life. And he goes out and he's just doing this dance like like in any other movie, this is the dance that Strawberry would have done if like the quarterback asked her to the prom or something, right? It's that exact like, fuck yeah. And he's doing this and he looks over and like Lonnie's dad is just in the next yard, just like, what is this motherfucker celebrating right now?
It's an amazing scene.
It's so good.
Because that's just how self-absorbed he is. Like he can't even consider for a moment that this might be hard for somebody else.
Yeah.
So the second big plot twist is he's been, selling weed on behalf of the local dealer who is like it's a family deal, basically. It's a mother and her daughter and her son. When he decides he's going to leave for good, he makes the kind of bizarre decision to tell Lexi, his wife, that he's going to be leaving in the morning. To soothe his own ego. I can think of a lot of reasons why his character would do it.
Just because he wants to be a dick and he wants them to know that he's fucking leaving because he's a piece of shit and he got everything he wants and screw them.
That, like, even the way he structures that, though, where he tries to launch into it, like, we've just been fighting a lot lately, and I don't want that. You don't want that. We don't, like, he has to, like, keep insisting because of the one plate throwing thing that happened, like, 2 weeks ago, that they've just been fighting a lot lately. Just such a piece of shit. But anyway, the twist, he thinks he got away with it. He goes to bed, and he's woken up. They've hired... or, they've alerted basically the dealer family to come over and basically rough him up and take all his money and make him leave without the clothes on his back, leave with nothing. And that part, I love the image of him running away naked. I love how low he is brought and how much his ego still manages to, like, stay intact after it. But just the whole thing about, like, being roughed up by dealers and being sent out, and the vindication of everyone in the house of, like, hi, you piece of shit, we got you. That just didn't feel like it had to happen for the movie to carry the message it wanted. That was the one part to me where it felt cartoonish. The rest of it, for some reason, I completely believed, and then that felt like a cartoon where the good guys kind of get what they want. Like, they get to tell the bad guy how bad he is. And I don't know why. I just didn't. I didn't like that part very much.
See, to me, it feels a little bit like I can take the way you convinced me about the house to reverse that and say that's how I feel about that, right? Because this is a guy who has fucked over everybody, thinks he got away with it, and even goes to sleep. He lets this. It's like the last thing he has to deal with, right? He could just ghost his wife in the morning and be gone. And he has everything, right? He has the girl who's going to help relaunch his career. It's going to be awesome. He's going to get everything he wants. He's going to be a star again. She's going to win 3 years of the adult film awards, and he's going to win awards, and, like, everything's going to be amazing, right? All he has to do is wake up, get a car, and come see her. That's all he has to do. In that moment, he, like, sets everything on fire and goes, all right, nothing's collapsing. I think we're good. And he goes and he, like, gets in bed and he's kind of like, did I just do it? And he puts his hands behind his head and he goes to sleep. Yeah. And then everything comes crashing down in that instance.
Can we even talk about the hubris after that conversation for him to take the bed?
I know. And here's the thing too, is he could have said, hey, I know, like we're fighting. I know I'm helping out, but I know it's not fair to you. I'm just going to get a different place, right? He's like, there's a place down the street. I can just get that. I'll still help out. Like, he could even lie just to explain why he's not going to be there, and it would be fine, right? Like, it wouldn't be fine in the morning for the family, but, like, he just wants everyone to know he's fucking out of there. He's so much better than everybody else in this town. He like wants everybody to know he's gotten one over. So it's like, to me, he needs to be, like, knocked down a lot of pegs. He does. And all of this is happening, but all he really cares about is, like, I need to get a car. I need to pick up Strawberry. We need to drive to California. If I can't do that, like, if I can get $200 from that $3,000, maybe that's enough for me to get a car and get us to California, and everything will be fine. Because as soon as we get there, we're just going to shoot a scene and then we'll have a couple $1,000, and then we're shooting another scene and we have a couple thousand. Like, everything only hinges on, can I get out of this place? And can I just get to the place I need to go, and everything will be well. And all of that is threatened by just this. Like, in any other movie, this would be life threatening in this moment. But for him, it's just plan threatening, and his perfect house of cards is starting to fall. And, like, to me, that feels completely exactly where that character needed to be. Otherwise, this movie would go on for 2 more hours, right? This is exactly what needs to happen for us to like start to wrap up the story. But then the thing that I tease is Sean Baker does his, I'm going to have an ending that can only be like in somebody's imagination and not actually what is transpiring here. So what does that mean? Did they find him and catch up with them? Did he just decide, fuck it, she's not going to want to go to California with me now, and just ghost her too? Like, what? I have no idea. And I guess it's trying to leave it open to your imagination, but does he just go to the next town over and start the whole process again and start looking at donut shops?
Yeah.
like what is going on?
I don't know how much, because the drug dealer kind of makes a point of saying $200 is enough for you to get a bus to California. It's not obvious if it's enough for him to get 2 tickets to California.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean he has to
either.
show up with a car, right? He can't be like, let's go to California, hop on this bus with me. He should be like, bus? I thought you were Hollywood, right? Like he needs to have a car either way. So yeah, I don't remember the dollars he was saying, but in COVID times, $200 isn't enough to rent a car. But
well, because I think the conversation he has with her the day before is like, I'll have a car pick you up. It'll take us to the bus depot and we'll get a Greyhound. I feel like, which is weird because it goes against his flashy, I'm rich aesthetic. But I feel like he had primed her for a little bit of that. So it makes me really not know what is going to happen. But for sure, like Florida Project, it is a moment of wish fulfillment, of him seeing the like glossy, perfect thing that he wants to happen. And then Bye 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 is playing backwards, I think, while that happens, which I don't even know what it means. It's like a reversed goodbye, so it's a hello. I don't know. Or he's just leaving in the opposite manner as he came, because it opens with it. I'm not even sure, but yeah, it was a nice touch. Sean Baker can do that for every movie. That's cool with me.
Yeah, it's just like, this is his thing. It's like, I definitely was like, man, what is it with these endings? But besides that, that's been my complaint. That was my complaint about Florida Project too. But in general, I really enjoyed this film.
Yep. Same. I think I knew I was completely into this movie when Mikey first, like the beginning of the movie, he shows up at Lexi's house. She won't even let him inside. She doesn't want to see him. She hates him. He needs to get sent on his way. And then in a normal movie like this, he would go and be in a hotel, and then he would have to do something to slowly win their favor. But in this movie, he just kind of forces by verbal diarrhea his way inside. And then within he showers, and then within a few minutes, he is like yelling from the kitchen to the mother about like bottom bitches and the way the house became a trap house because of his good for nothing, blah, 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 blah. Just like the horror of having this guy in your home. Like your daughter is married to this guy and you have to put up with him. I was like, all right, I like this movie.
One of my favorite parts about the intro to this character is just that he uses her leg razor. Just while he's I need to take a shower, and he just does a full on shave with it. Like didn't say like he didn't even do the thing that you would expect that character to do, which is while shaving say, is it cool if I use your razor or something like that? He just does it where he's gonna come out super clean shaven, and they're just gonna be like, where'd you get a fucking razor from?
Yeah, I know. I clocked that too. Like, what a dick.
That was so good. But yeah, I think for me, at first it was a little weird because like the camera is going from being in the conversation to being like on the street, and it feels like when you're on the street you're hearing it from on the street, so it's like far away. So I was like, what's going on? But once she says that she's going to call the cops and he runs to be on the street, I was like, yep, you cheeky bastard. I could tell this is going to be a fun movie.
And he's just so assertive. He's like, technically, I'm not on your property anymore, so you can't call it trespassing. He's just always right. He always thinks he's
you want
right.
my $22 here? I can't hand it to you, though, because then I'd be on your property. It's good.
And even just how quickly he turns. Like, he thinks he's all hot shit because he's spending $6.50 or whatever to get them, like, whatever donuts they want. And then because he has a plan with strawberries, suddenly he's, like, hurrying them, and he couldn't be bothered to even pretend to be nice to them for a few minutes. Just a full a full piece of shit character, just beginning to end.
I think one of my other favorite moments is when he lets the construction workers go ahead of the line from him, and they just keep coming in, and he's slowly realizing that, like, oh, it's just going to be all the construction workers. I need to leave.
Yeah.
It was good times. But anyways, besides loving every random scene of this film, was there any last topics that we needed to hit?
No, I think we did it.
Cool. Well, there it is. That was Red Rocket spoilers. So everybody should check out this film, and hope you enjoy. All right. Bye.